Hello and welcome to TNWKS, the Now We Know show, the show where we discuss a topic of interest and by the end we will have learnt something new and hopefully you will too. I'm Zach.
I'm Buzz.
And I'm June.
Yes, we have Indiana June back in the studio for part 2 of her World War II memories.
If you enjoy the Now We Know show podcast, support Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon or join our members on YouTube for early access, ad-free content and exclusive episodes.
So before I start telling you all about my life during World War II, why not let's do
Weird and Wonderful. Ah, good old Weird and Wonderful. Right, I've got a Weird and Wonderful one.
You've got a Weird and Wonderful?
Not very topical, I must say, but it sort of caught my eye this week. Okay, so this one is a bizarre moment. Man is rescued after being wedged inside traffic cone.
He was very small,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was imagining like a really small man wedged in a...
small child.
Okay. Was it a small man in a traffic cone or was it a large normal man inside a massive traffic cone?
Right. Why don't I tell you and you'll find out?
Okay.
Okay. Baffled road workers have captured the moment they found a man stuck inside a traffic cone. The road workers in São Paulo, Brazil, were removing the cones from an area of road works last Sunday.
Okay.
When they realised one of them was heavier than the others. When they shone a light into the cone, they spotted the outline of a man inside.
I'm just trying to imagine the physics of this because I'm... Is it like bigger on the inside or something? Is this a TARDIS cone?
Okay, well, workers of the traffic engineering company then tipped the waist-high cone over and peered into the bottom to see a man folded up inside.
What?
Don't believe it.
That doesn't make any sense.
Despite the initial shock, the road worker reassured the trapped man, "I'll get you out. I'll try to pull you out by the foot." The man was apparently so tightly wedged that even effort to pull him out completely failed, leading to the workers asking if they should call the fire service.
Is there a picture?
There is a picture.
Okay, so it's a reasonable sized traffic cone.
It is a very big traffic cone.
Perhaps they have them bigger in Brazil.
It's bigger in Brazil. Not like the ones we have in the UK.
They wouldn't even fit your head.
Just imagine stumbling into this situation.
Well, that's it. I mean,
he fell into it.
He fell in. Anyway, so
ridiculous.
Finally, one of the road workers put the cone the right way up and hoisted it up on a crane, and the trapped man slipped out onto the tarmac, and he was saved.
Oh, I'm free!
Free! So there you go. So be careful out there if you get stuck in a traffic cone.
I'm glad we had the picture just to give that a bit of context.
I know.
I was finding that very hard to visualise.
That's kind of why it caught my eye, because I thought, man trapped in a traffic cone. I'm thinking,
why do they
how does this work?
Why do they have big traffic cones in Brazil?
Well, there's a question for the Now We Know show.
Yeah.
Well, see if we can. I'll do the research on it, and maybe in the next episode I can
find out.
Catch up on why Brazil have man-sized traffic cones.
Do they have bigger lorries?
I have no idea.
Maybe that's how they're distributed. They have people inside them. They walk them around.
Or in the vein of Anton Deck, maybe he was a very, very small man. Anyhow, so we have Indiana June back in the studio for part 2 of her growing up through World War II memories. And if I recall, last week we finished off with your father spotting your evacuee Jack on the back of military transport heading off to war.
Yes.
Which means that we start this episode with you still in Bishop Stortford.
Yes.
Take it away, June.
Right. Well, I have left the convent school and they have now sent me to Northgate End School, which is further along the road, past the small market for small animals, and they have cows and pigs and sheep right over the wall. So at playtime you can go and look at all the animals. It's very interesting.
So how old are you at this point?
I think I must have been about 7.
7, okay.
Yes, between 7 and 8, I don't know. But it was a different school, did different things, and we had music and movement once a week off the radio, or the wireless, as you would call it. And this is where we find out that boys always seem to come first, because the box with all the instruments were open, and the boys got the drums first.
Well, see, they got to
and
choose the
bugle.
instruments.
Yes.
Do you know
And-
why that was? Or was it just the
Well,
way it happened?
yes.
I
just-
think you were a little bit annoyed about that.
I was a little bit annoyed because if the further back in the queue you go, you might get castanets
Castanets.
Yes,
Not
but
the
if-
castanets.
or a triangle.
Ding.
Oh, don't knock the triangle.
That's Zak's best.
It's my favourite instrument.
I- Is there
I
anybody who can
once
play?
got a tambourine which made a little bit of noise.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Tambourine man.
But the
Must have been happy about that.
The girls never ever got a chance at playing the
Gosh,
drums.
when I was at primary school and we did that music session, I just used to get a stick that had got lots of metal bottle caps
Rattled.
nailed to it.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was it.
Wow.
I thought it was kind of like, on reflection, I thought, did this show how many bottles of beer the teachers used to drink?
I
And
don't
then they
know.
used to collect the caps up and nail them to bits of wood so the kids could rattle them.
Woo! Music
It was like, woohoo! Anyway,
Yes, apart from looking at the animals at playtime or music and movement once a week, I can't remember really, except what we were really learning to do, except newspaper was so, well, you couldn't get it. We were writing all over your textbook, or
Yep.
whatever, and in the margins and all over the covers inside. And of course, if your pen nib broke,
these were ink pens.
these were ink pens.
So you had an ink well, did
Yeah,
you?
we had the boys made the ink with water and powder.
Oh,
Not
okay.
girls, boys did, and they went round filling up the ink wells as well.
That's actually really interesting because nowadays you don't really think about that
No.
would have been a thing at the
But
time.
if you put too much pressure on your nib, because it was two little points in it,
Yep.
it broke, and you couldn't write with it anymore. So then you had to have just a pencil
Oh, no.
Because going again back to when I was at school,
until you got a new lot coming. If you got
in
some.
a comparison, going back, and I want to bounce this off you, Zak. When I was at school, in primary school, we still were introduced to using ink fountain pens at
Oh,
school.
no.
Apart from those
Fountain
ones,
pens.
those ones were the same type of pen you would dip,
Mm.
but they had a cartridge you put in them. So you
Yeah.
had an ink
Uh-huh.
cartridge.
Yeah.
And as a school child, we had to learn how to do calligraphy writing
Mm-hmm.
with those.
So what did you use, Zak?
So, yes, I did have those
Oh, so
at
they
school.
actually
They did still have them, but to be honest, it was more of just a statement thing for the kids. It would be like, oh, look at him, he's got a
Right.
funky
Oh, no,
funky
we had to
pen.
use-
Possibly did you have biros then?
Yeah,
'Cause that
biros,
was a-
biros. I remember that growing up, you'd get a special pen license.
All right.
Oh,
That's if you could write really well with a pencil, you'd earn a pen license.
oh,
right.
goodness.
And they'd give you a pen.
We learnt with doing all the alphabet and doing it in calligraphy style, and I remember them going to upper school, and everybody was using biros, and I spent all those years writing with
One of these-
an italic pen,
Yeah.
only to then use a biro, which I'd never used before, and all my writing then became really scrawly because it just didn't look the same.
No.
Oh no.
Anyway, back to school in Bishop Stortford. So, because obviously here we are in World War II, did you at this new school have air raid drills and things there? Because
Yeah,
you said
you
at the
still- you
convent you
still-
didn't.
No, you still had to have practice with your gas mask or whatever. I don't remember them having any air raid shelters though.
Right, so you never actually sort of had
No, but we-
because we used to get mock fire drills, didn't we?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So the alarm would go off and you'd all have to
So
run.
bringing that back to the future for a second, at my school, in upper school, it was terrorist alarms where you'd have to hide under the tables.
Yeah.
Oh, like
So-
my granny.
How does the time change? There you're at school, Indiana June. So you're at school worrying about the Germans bombing you. I'm at school worrying about whether we're going to get a nuclear strike or a fire, and you've got terrorists.
Terrorist alarms, yeah. Mr. Fernandez, he proper locked the front door and then dived under the table. It was rather dramatic.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we didn't. I didn't stay at that school very long because everything was going to change.
Oh,
Dad got a notification that we were going to move.
again, because you moved.
wow.
Yes.
Moved from
Well,
Hitchin to...
where I live now is my 13th move.
Right.
13.
I've moved 13 times.
Wow. I haven't moved once.
No,
I've
well,
moved
anyway,
twice.
we were
Well,
notified.
No, actually once. Really, because I
Yeah.
grew up in my childhood home and then I moved out. So that,
Yeah.
that would technically be
Yeah.
one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we were told we were going to Hemel Hempstead.
Right, so Bishop Stortford, good old Hemel Bumpstead.
Yes.
Hemel Bumpstead.
Yeah, that's what people call it,
call it
Hemel
Hemel
Bumpstead.
When my granny found out,
Oh,
she
yes.
nearly had a conniption fit.
Oh dear.
What's that? What's a conniption fit?
Well,
It's
she
just sort of like-
got very upset.
Very
Oh,
upset
okay.
and sort of like...
Oh my God,
like a-
you're going to
Like a
very
panic attack?
Yes, like a
Kind of like that.
Evidently,
They could have
dur-
shifted.
years ago, she said policemen only walked down Berry Road in twos in case they got attacked. It was one of the roughest places in Hemel.
Right, and this is where you were moving
This is
to.
where we were going to move to.
So Berry
I mean-
Road.
Very inspiring.
But anyway, you get told either you get told on a Thursday and you move on a Tuesday, or vice versa. You don't get.
Was
much.
there any particular reason for, or was it
No,
just general
if it comes from
up above?
up above and you get notified you're going to move.
So, in the first episode, we talked about the facilities of your then new house.
House with
Which
the,
had,
Was it an improvement this time?
yes, this one had a bathroom and an indoor toilet,
Oh,
and it had a back boiler. So, and I'm not sure if it had an immersion heater, but yeah, we had a small thin garden, which I'll go into later. Anyway, she had to be calmed down because when we got there was a police inspector on one side, then our house, then a police sergeant, and then a police constable, and we were opposite the school.
wow.
right.
Right.
That's
No-
close to school.
None of which pleased my father an awful lot because doing night work, the children were playing and shouting and hollering. My mum even sent me to have school dinners at the Berry. We tried it for a week, so I didn't have to come home and make a noise in case we woke father
Right, so
up.
When you say school dinners at the Berry, that is the school.
No, that's
Right.
no,
No,
that's
no,
Berry
no.
Road School.
Right.
We're in Berry Road.
You're in Berry Road,
Berry Road
Which-
School is opposite us,
which is the school you're at.
and we go along Berry Road because it's called
Yep.
Berry Road because the cemetery's up Berry Hill.
Okay.
But-
There you go.
and the Berry is where people used to get married. Well, and the buses all used to stop in Berry Road.
So why are you having school dinners at the
So-
Berry? You sort of imagine you're having school dinners at
Yeah,
school.
no, you didn't. You all had to march up the road
Right.
and go into the Berry. But I didn't like the dinners very much.
I'm
It did-
imagining they were quite basic. Since
well, they were
it's
quite
war.
basic. But they were supposed to be nutritional, but they were still making a noise at school, and my sister was still making a noise, so it didn't make any difference whether father could hear me or not. So no, we only tried them for about a week.
What, so then, when it was lunchtime, what did you do? Go home?
Yes, went home. And
You
you had
did?
to be very quiet
Oh, you
in
didn't get
case we woke father up.
you didn't get sent to school with a packed lunch then.
No, came home very quietly. But no. So we didn't have rough people living down the road because nearly everybody was in the army or navy or whatever. And so it was just mostly children.
So can I jump in there? And you say that your grandmother wasn't happy about.
Well, she was all right after they found out that we weren't going to get
so,
attacked.
So she wasn't actually moving with you though.
No, because she lived at the bottom of Adeyfield Road.
Oh right. So when you lived in Bishop Stortford,
Yeah.
she used to come and visit then.
Yes.
She wasn't
sometimes.
actually living with you.
No,
Right. She actually lived in Hemel Hempstead.
yes.
Right. Oh, I
And
thought she'd have been happy to have you moving closer.
Closer.
And they had 3 evacuees. You didn't know who you were going to get. Somebody used to come and knock on the front door and say, "We've
Here,
been
have some
sent."
children.
There you go.
Yes.
Bye.
Yeah. So anyway, she was all right that we'd got policemen each side of us and nobody was going to attack us.
Did you still have an Anderson shelter in the garden?
No,
So you've
we
now
did-
lost your shelter as
we
well.
no. But the school had a big. It was like a tunnel, and it had little square bits in in the wall, and you could crawl through that to get into the next section.
Oh, right. So it's a much bigger...
Oh, much bigger.
bigger
People, we used to sit in there and sing,
so
she's coming round the mountain. And
so at this new school,
yeah,
you did have air raid drills then?
yes.
Right. And so,
Still have the masks and everything?
Oh, yes, you still had them to the end of the wall. And my identity card,
your
which is
identity
DEJX 130/3, and it's in the sideboard.
there you go.
That's really cool.
I've still got
That's
it.
really cool.
So that's good that at least now you actually had air raid shelter, proper air raid
Yes.
shelter at school, and you were doing drills.
Yeah, that was it. So I wasn't in the baby classes because I was 7 going on 8. I was in Miss Green's class.
Right, Miss Green.
Miss Green hadn't been called up because possibly she wasn't fit enough to go into whatever. So
service. Yeah.
so the highlight of the day was to see what the weather was doing. The windows were high, and you had to go. She would choose somebody to go and look at the different cards. Was it cloudy? Was it rainy? Was it sunny? And we could hang it on the wall.
Okay.
So that.
To save you looking out the window.
Well, you couldn't because the window was high
Oh.
up. You couldn't see out of the windows. And we had paper things for artwork, and you had to thread other bits of paper through it, which I thought was a bit stupid. But
Okay.
and we were still very short of paper.
Did you have the music lessons?
We could sing songs.
Right. So you did. So previously you were saying about the boys took all the instruments.
Yeah, well,
first.
that was on the radio, and it was music and movement, but we didn't get that at Northgate End.
Right.
But now we're at Bury Road School, and nobody wanted to play with me because her dad's a policeman.
Oh.
So you were left standing in the corner of the playground.
Well, I used to talk to some people, but nobody wanted to play with me, and my sister was too little to play with anyway. So that was a bit bothersome, but I did find out that if I went down the garden,
Yep.
there was a fence with a gate in it.
Uh-huh.
Opened the gate, and it was a slope, quite steep, went down to the river gate.
Uh-huh.
Aha! Evidently I was allowed to go down there, so a bit later on with a fork and a spade, I managed to cut some steps out so I could get down. There was a tank in the water, and you could have lots of fun. Some of the children that live further up would, if it was summer, would bring baby baths, and we'd float up and down, or you put your bathing costume on, because it was deep, not like it is now, well, 2 inches of mud. But, there was 2 rivers with a big load of trees in the middle, and it was really deep. So I'd cut the rough steps.
Nothing
over.
like a bit of wild swimming.
Yes, right.
And then I found there was this tank that had been sunk in there, and
When you say tank, you don't mean that.
it was like
tank tank.
not
A projectile
no,
tank.
No, it was like a water tank.
Water
Was
tank.
down there, and I grew some flowers and things down there, and this tank was in there, and if you stood on it, you see these funny fish coming out of it.
Funny fish?
Yes, they looked a bit slimy, sort of fish, and they had whiskers.
Oh, yes.
What kind of like
So-
catfish?
Yeah, yes. Well, anyway, Dad came to. You can catch some of those for me. I have a container for going fishing, and you take your live bait. So that was another job I had.
So live
Catching-
baits was
The
they the
gudgeons.
one? Okay, these were the
Yes,
fish you were finding,
Yeah,
and then you had to catch those.
I had to catch some gudgeon if he was going
So
fishing.
they were gudgeon.
Yes, they were gudgeon, and they used to go down to the canal
Mm-hmm.
and go fishing. They did sometimes catch pike or something, but they tasted very muddy.
Fishy?
Yeah, muddy.
Muddy.
Oh,
Muddy.
it's-
I've never had pike.
You haven't. I don't think you've missed a lot. But that was another job anyway. But and another fun thing he thought of, he made a soaring horse.
Mhm.
I thought, what's that? This will help make you a lot stronger, he said. I thought there's got to be a catch to this, but
Was for cutting wood.
yeah. Well, then a load of logs turned up.
Oh, that's my favourite job. I love chopping.
Yeah.
Chopping.
I'll show you
Chopping
what
logs.
to do, he said. Presented me with a bow saw and an axe.
And how old were you at the time?
Still about
Well,
6,
getting on to
7.
about 8 now.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. he would lift the biggest ones up. He said, "I'll show you what to do first, and you'll get nice up muscles, and you'll get a lot stronger." So all you have to do is saw the logs up into the big logs, and then get the axe and chop them into smaller logs, and then into smaller ones so Mum can light the fire with them. Well, I don't know about getting any stronger, but, it kept me occupied for ages, because once you used up that load of logs, another load would come. And we had an allotment.
Wow.
So as well as, we took the chickens and the rabbits with us, so I had another job going round and weeding the allotment. So I had lots of things to do. But once a week in the summer at school, we went to Churchill swimming baths.
Ooh.
Do you remember Churchill swimming baths, Peter?
Churchill swimming baths. I don't know where they were.
Well, up near the cemetery as well.
No.
Yeah, we used to walk along there, and Mrs. Johnson, because it wasn't heated swimming pool, push you under the water with a broomstick.
You will swim.
Swim!
I never learnt to swim until I was 60. And they,
Wow.
No.
Still pushing you under the water.
And I decided that it was silly going on holiday and I couldn't swim, so I actually...
So you'd been kind of put off swimming because
I was.
of being pushed
because of
up.
a broomstick.
Well, this next lady took us up to the 12 foot and said, "Now all jump in."
Yeah.
Well, somebody was already in the water. "But you do bob up." I did do that. And I actually got a swimming certificate for doing
For floating.
no,
For not
no,
drowning.
For not drowning.
Well done, you survived.
You survived.
I used to go up there sometimes on my own, and my daughter said, "Don't let Granny get near the deep end, but you bang your knees on the 3 foot." I used to go up to the deep end so I could hang on to the wall to start with. I could push myself up from the 12 foot, and I could swim along by the wall.
This is the age of 60.
No, before that.
All right.
But no, I did. Well, after I had the
So the
lesson.
swimming lessons when you were at school in World War II kind of had a lot to be desired there.
Yeah, but the only good thing coming back again, you could call in at the baker's and have a halfpenny roll.
A halfpenny roll. Okay.
Just a bread roll.
Just a bread, nothing in it?
No, nothing in it.
Just bread.
But
Just bread. And that was a treat?
That was a treat, yes.
Wow.
The last time I tried to buy, I think it cost me 60p in the corner shop.
Imagine kids nowadays.
Yeah.
Here you go,
Yes.
Dave, here's a bread roll.
Roll.
Yeah.
Wow, what a treat.
Woohoo!
Wow, we're really living the high life.
Where's the sugar?
Yes.
Oh, and other things, you used to have exams.
Yeah, we have
Well, we do
exams.
still have those.
We do have those.
Unfortunately,
When I went
yes.
up to Mrs. Johnson's class from Miss Green, there were a lot of, funny smells when you first get there. There was a certain young lady that used to pee herself nearly every day.
Oh.
I shan't say the name because she could be listening, but it was a lot better. But I think she stopped doing that after a while. But after,
Maybe after she's 60.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
but
Well, most people wait till they're 60 and then they start doing it.
Anyway.
then I got
Anyway.
Mrs. Johnson's room was the biggest classroom, and it had a big coke stove in there for when the winter came. The crates of milk came in unthawed and whatever.
Oh, but you don't like your warmed milk, do you?
No, but I was allowed to go across the road to take it over the road to get it warmed up. And Mum would have that and make me cocoa with water because I don't like milk.
So, because obviously we're going through the war here, Second World War. What was it like in the winter times at school? Because a lot of people these days, you find that if the heating's not working
At school.
No, it was
everything
a
gets
big coke,
cancelled.
big coke stove was there.
So did you go into classes and were they nice and toasty warm all the time?
Well, reasonable,
Wow,
Did you get snow?
Yeah, we got
Snow,
snow.
yeah.
Sometimes.
Because that's quite rare nowadays,
It
isn't it?
is. But I mean, they didn't close the school because it snowed. Or
Well, I don't
leaves-
suppose that many people actually used motor cars back then.
Well, no.
The teachers
Well,
probably all.
petrol was rationed. Everything was
I
rationed.
would have thought the teachers probably lived more local to the
Well,
school. didn't
Mrs.
they?
Johnson, her husband up the top of the hill had a shoe shop and shoe mending. So I think,
Cobblers.
yeah, a cobbler shop.
There you go.
And she must have lived up there somewhere or other. And then if she was ill or other things happen, Miss Ede used to come down.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
And she was a Victorian lady with the skirts right round her ankles and a big black stick. And she would come and give us lessons. But if anybody was naughty when Mrs. Johnson was there, nobody would own up to whoever made a noise with it. You all had to stand on your form, and then she'd run backwards and forwards with a ruler, slapping everybody's legs.
Dang.
Yes, we had biology. She got a big glass jar and put a couple of beans in there with blotting paper and some water, and we could watch a bean growing.
Hey!
Hey. Exciting time.
Yes.
One bean,
Yeah,
and
well,
add one bean,
yes.
Makes two
two
beans.
beans,
And there
or a
were-
very small casserole. That's it.
I mean, there were such a lot of children, I don't know. When I
So-
got to secondary school, there were 46 in my class. But, you know, you
Wow,
have
40, 46 people in your class.
It was 46 in my class at secondary school.
So-
So it was probably round about the same. So when we had PT or PE or whatever you like to call it, there were too many for 4 teams. So they made 5 teams. And for some reason or other, probably because nobody really liked me, you can be the captain of the pink team.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Yeah, it was pink. There was red, blue, green, and yellow, but there was pink left. And I thought, I'm not very good. I can jump because we could do the jumping things and run. I'm rotten at catching anything, but there was all this group of miserable-looking boys, and boys evidently can run quite fast, and they're good at catching balls. So I picked all the boys.
That's
Ah.
So I was the captain of the boys, and we seldom lost.
Hey,
Well done.
See, you're
Yeah,
using
I was using my.
noodles.
Using
Yeah.
your head, yeah.
I thought, well, I'm not much good at doing things, but you know, leapfrog and all the
So
rest
you
of
were
it.
But you can tell them what to do.
You were complaining about the boys nicking all the instruments, and now you're using them to your
Because
advantage.
my dad, you know, I got taken to. He started boxing, and they were my outings. If anybody got knocked out or anything else, I used to have to go. And that was my exciting outing for the evening to look after. So my dad only liked boys. He didn't like girls very much, and he got 2 of them. So I was brought up, you know, with the sawing and the.
You did actually tell me before we came into the studio that with the sawing and the chopping of the wood, that you did wake up one morning with an injured hand.
Well, I did. I don't think it was the injured, but yeah, a couple of my fingernails were black.
Okay.
All my fingers were black, and I said to Mum, "I don't know, my fingers are hurting." So she took me off to the doctors, and evidently there was some sort of infection under. And he said, "I think I shall have to remove her nails."
Ouch. Well, how many fingers was this?
Well, it was 2 or 3 there, and I think it came up on the other hand. And I didn't think much of this as an idea.
I'm not surprised.
I wouldn't.
I'm going to pull your nails out, young lady.
Because you've heard about the Japanese torturing people and putting bamboo down, I think. And yes, he said I should have to.
You might want to clarify on that thing.
The thing, they're putting bamboo under
Yeah, well,
the
they
nails.
were torturing people.
Yep.
Because
And you'd heard about this.
I'd heard about this, you know. And I'm thinking, I don't want my fingernails pulling
I don't
off.
think anyone would.
No, I'll pull get your fingernails off, and then I'll lance, which is sticking a
Needle in.
needle or something sharp. And to get- So anyway, on the way home, Mum said, "Well, I could try and cut your nails off carefully with a razor blade,
Okay.
and then we could have thoracic." And I'm thinking, well, rather than pulling my fingernails off,
Completely off.
perhaps she could. She said, if you sit and put your hand on the table, I'll get the big. You could have razor blades that got 2 sides, but they were very thin, and another razor would have a solid back.
You mean like a proper cutthroat razor?
No, not a cutthroat.
Oh,
blade,
actually,
but
the blades
the
that have a
blade.
metal
Yeah,
bit on the back of it.
Yeah, so that was. So she got the brassic powder and hot water and a big needle, and I sat with my hand on the table behind me, and it wasn't very nice feeling. But she slowly peeled my nails off bits by bit, so I didn't have
And then after you got your nails off.
Did it
one
relieve
at a
your
time.
pain at
Yes,
all?
because then she lanced them and put my finger in the hot water and then squeezed.
All the
Got
ook out.
I do not
But
want to
my
think about that.
fingernails did grow again. And
I can see.
Yes, they were-
Otherwise, it's a very good prosthetic.
yes,
Yes.
no.
Do you notice what's missing for this?
What?
Nobody went down the A&E.
No,
Yeah,
No.
that's very
You
true.
no, I didn't go back and let the doctor.
Nowadays, you can go to A&E for just feeling
Yes.
sad.
Or the hamster's bitten my finger. I need to go to A&E.
I
Evidently,
need to get,
No
I need to
no-
get
no wonder-
vaccinated for that.
Yeah, no wonder
Evidently-
the NHS is overrun with
no.
things.
Well, evidently,
Very
I
topical,
was
very
very
topical.
run down, and I was. What
Yep.
do you call it? When you need iron,
Oh yes, anemic.
anemic, yes, because I fainted a lot, but they prescribed barley sugar when I was little, but then rationing came and you couldn't get barley sugar, so I used to have iron medicine, which sent the spoon black. I don't know what it did to my inside, but evidently I was very anemic, and that's why I got infected nails.
Right.
Touch wood, it's never come back again,
Huzzah!
but
Yes.
it was quite an experience.
No, so going again, I'll get back to your school in the winter times. I'm just intrigued about, did you build snowmen, go sledging during the war? Did you have snowball fights with the rest of the kids? You know, what was
Well,
it?
we weren't supposed to throw snowballs in the playground.
Oh, sorry.
Crikey, you had that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing's really
no,
changed then.
No, but and the playground was a bit on the slope like this. Which
So
was
when it came to actually snow, as
oh,
Zach
we used to
said,
get a lot of snow.
Zach said we're very rare now. So sort of what depth are we talking about back in the
Well,
war time?
Right up sort of past my waist.
Okay.
And you were 7 or 8 at the time.
Yeah.
When you say your waist,
Yeah.
you're talking about your childhood waist.
Yes.
aren't you? Your adult
Not
waist.
your adult waist.
Well, actually, I'm smaller now than I was because I was 5'5.5" when I with size 6 shoes when I was 10.
So okay.
Well, so there's actually a
I've
significant
shrunk.
amount of
And
snow.
did it used to hang around?
Yes.
Right. So it wasn't like the one day wonder like
Oh
we have
no,
now.
no.
I mean,
And-
you classify a one-day wonder, but snow now is barely a few inches off the floor.
If you're
Yeah.
lucky.
Oh no, it was really, really deep. I mean,
And it
you
used
had
to
to dig your way out to get out to cross the road to go to
Wow.
school.
And when it used to stay, did it?
Oh yeah.
So you'd have what a week or weeks or
Well, however long the winter lasted.
right.
Did you like
Because
the snow?
I was just trying to combine the
Not
fact
a lot because
I was
you're having to walk in Wellingtons, and then if it was over the top of your Wellingtons, then your feet and everything would get
Well, I
wet.
was just trying to combine, paint this picture of if you've got this heavy snow, it's winter time, but we're still in blackouts, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
So
Wow.
you've got this complete blackout
Yeah.
as soon as the sun sets, but you've got all heavy snow.
And the
you've got
buses,
the cold
which
to deal with.
I don't know if you even believe me, but the buses, they'd have like little slits on their lights, but a lot of them had coke boilers on the back. I don't
Yes,
know how
you
it worked.
mentioned
Yeah,
that
you
too.
mentioned that in the first
Did I
episode.
mention
Yes.
it before? Yeah. I know because sometimes when we were at Bishop Stortford, we would go to Granny's on a bus and it would take ages to get, because I didn't
Steam
go.
powered bus. That's
yeah.
what you want.
Very
Yeah.
steampunk.
But no, the snow just hung about. If you were lucky, you'd get something to clear the road, but you'd have to clear your own path to try and get to school. Or whatever.
So, in the midst of all this, obviously the war's going on. So,
Yes.
what information were you gleaning? I mean, how did you feel as a child? You
Well, we still got lots of air raid things going on, and you'd get going into the shelters and whatever and sing songs and try
have
and
a good old
cheer.
knees up,
Well,
build a campfire, have a sing.
oh, you couldn't have a fire.
I understood that reference.
Yeah,
I
reference.
understood that
Go on,
reference.
which movie?
Aliens.
Aliens.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't we build a fire?
Sing some
No.
songs.
Sing
No,
some
we
songs.
couldn't. And coal was rationed. Dad did make himself a big trailer fixed on his
Hence
bicycle.
why you were chopping lots of wood.
Yeah, well, if you could get them. You could even get, when they were altering the roads up in London, there were sort of wooden bricks and they'd got tar on them, and you could get them. They were a bit dodgy because they'd have grit on them and they'd go bang on the fire.
Oh, God.
If you-
So,
Jeez.
I know. I don't
or,
want
and you
to.
could go down to the gasworks, and I think you could get a load of coke if you were lucky. If you got there in time, if you heard the Coke was there and you could get there.
Again, I'm just intrigued about the winter. Do you ever remember the river at the bottom of your garden freezing up at all or anything like that?
I don't think it did
I was
freeze.
just sort of wondering if you ever got out there.
It could have got some ice
did
on
some
it. I don't
ice
know.
skating or something.
We
during the
wouldn't have been allowed to go down there anyway in case we fell in or did something.
Okay.
But no, you could have a time perhaps throwing snowballs in the garden at your sister or something rather.
Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy that?
Throwing them at her sister. Of course she enjoyed it.
Yeah, but you weren't supposed to, because I got told, because Norma Redrup was kicking ice and snow at me, and I threw some back at her.
With the stone inside.
No, and Mr. Elliot looked over the fence from the boys' side.
Oh, hang on. The
boys
fence
were,
from the boys' side.
Younger boys were in the place
Separated.
with us, with the girls.
Right,
And
older boys
the older
separate.
boys were on the other side.
Segregation.
And he saw, and he was threatening me with a cane. And I said, well, she threw it, at me first because she was a teacher's pet. She was a teacher's child, and she was one of them.
But you should have said, my father is a police officer.
I outrank you.
My father is a teacher, and I'm going to the grammar school. And then she committed suicide.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
And it was two of them, and Anne did as well within a couple of years going there.
So, did it come for you to go to grammar school, or possibly go to grammar school during the war years?
Oh, yes.
Right. So how did
You had to do the 11 plus
Uh-huh.
exam
Yep.
in your classroom.
So what was that?
Well,
It's a
several pages of different questions and sums and
test your
all
sort
sorts
of level of
general knowledge.
ability,
general knowledge sort of thing.
ability at that age.
And I passed that, and I had to go to the grammar school. And I thought, I don't want to go to the grammar school.
The way you worded it made it sound like you didn't want to go.
Oh, my sister, when she went there, she told them I don't want to come here, which didn't please my father.
But you were saying about other having to go when you went there for if people had interviews.
Yes, we had to go in about 4 at a time, and 2 of these other girls, I don't know them, but they sat next to me, and they were dressed in like school uniforms, gym slips and whatever. And I thought, if anybody's going to go to the grammar school, you dress properly. I'd got a red coat on or whatever, and a flowered dress like my sister down here is wearing, and a bow on my hair. And they asked Barbara how to make a cup of tea, so she went all the way through it. And
when you say all the way through, actually physically making a cup of tea?
Yeah, told them all how
just
you
describing
it all. Oh, you failed.
For making a cup of tea incorrectly?
You didn't strike a match. And she was ever such a quiet girl, so she didn't answer back or say anything, because she could have had an Aga, so she wouldn't have had to strike a match. Mm-hmm. She could have had an electric stove. She wouldn't have had to strike a match.
Yeah.
She might have had to.
So she failed going to grammar school because she failed to mention that she needed to light
a match. And I thought, what stupidity this is, because my father. And if you go to the grammar school, which I hope you're going to do, you can have a watch. I didn't particularly want to be watched. But,
I take it you didn't get a watch.
I got a watch
you did?
eventually. No, not then. And then Miss Jones said that nobody was allowed to have a watch, and made everybody put them on a table next to the open front door.
All right.
Which my father disagreed with and went and said anybody can come and steal the watches. So it was rescinded.
So here we are in Hemel Hempstead. We've got all this wonderful school things going on.
Yeah, so I didn't get to the grammar school.
Did you have any kind of? I mean, we spoke about being over at Bishop Stortford, that you didn't really have any bombs dropping or anything like that.
I don't think that.
How was it in Hemel Hempstead?
Well, we kept getting air raids, but we didn't seem to have anything too near us. And they had the Americans all arrived up at Bovingdon.
Oh yes, Bovingdon Aerodrome.
Nobody had ever. Well, you did see 1 or 2 coloured persons. The Randolph Turpins and the ones who used to do the boxing lived in Watford, but otherwise you would never see anybody. They sort of invaded everywhere.
What, the Americans?
Yes. But,
so what were your memories of suddenly having American servicemen around?
Well, it didn't really make any difference to us, but when I got to the secondary school, people could leave school at 14 and I couldn't leave to 15, but evidently it was the talk of the classrooms, because the 14-year-old ladies used to manage to get lifts up to Bovingdon.
Oh, to visit the...
Yes.
visit the servicemen up there.
Yes.
Oh well.
Yes.
And what do they do at Bovington now, Buzz?
Now Bovington now.
I think it's filming there.
it is a film studio.
Yeah.
I mean, for years and years,
It was a market. Yeah.
but that's long gone now.
Yeah.
In fact, I think you visited it.
Yeah, I think I went to one of the last markets.
You went to
there.
one of the last markets, and from when I used to go many years ago, and it was a really big and
It was
prosperous
a big
market.
It was.
When we went with you, it turned into sort of some kind of
Not much good.
sleazy kind of knockoff perfumes type of,
Yeah.
Really breakable toys.
It was
market,
horrible.
like,
It
yeah.
was absolutely horrible. So thankfully that came to an end, and now it is fully converted over to Bovington Studio, Film Studio,
Well,
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
think
which I have been to and filmed at.
Yeah, so I mean, so have I. So have I. Do you remember what I filmed there?
You filmed Cursed?
Britannia.
Britannia. Oh yeah, I worked on Britannia, but I didn't do
I know
Britannia
some
there.
other things that happened. My uncle Gerald,
Yep.
who was in the army, and he was out there in Africa and whatever, but he came home on leave and met two young ladies, and he couldn't make up his mind which one he liked, but eventually he proposed to Gwen, and I was his bridesmaid or
Okay.
one of his, and they lived in Worthing.
So did they get married
That's-
during the war years?
Yes. And when we went down there, it was all barbed wire all over the sand and everything,
So what was it like to attend a wedding during the war period?
Well, he was teetotal, so it was orange or lemon to drink.
Okay.
I can't think of
I
anything.
can't imagine it being particular.
Well,
Yeah,
no.
people will spend literally thousands on a wedding these days.
Yeah, well, no. But anyway,
You
I
did with what you got by with what you had, I suppose.
Yes. Auntie Gwen didn't last very long. She had a little girl who now still lives down in Worthing. It's cousin Carol.
Oh, cousin Carol.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yes,
Yeah.
you visited cousin
Yes,
Carol.
she's
Wow, we all did.
77 now. But anyway, Auntie Gwen got meningitis or something or other and passed away. And then the law was changed, so he married her sister, Mary.
Oh right, okay.
And yes, anyway, they've popped off now. But I say, Carol, and they did adopt a little boy. I think his name's Michael. I've never set eyes on him. I mean, he's married and grown up now. And then it was VE Day.
So suddenly, there you go. So you're going through. You've got your daily, weekly, monthly trudge through life. It sounds terrible, trudge through life.
Well, I trudged through the snow.
Throwing snowballs at people you don't like, being ignored by others, having fun with the boys by winning your sports, and all the time you've got the shadow of the war over the top of you, and obviously blackouts and rationing. And
Well, rationing didn't stop till the year before I got married.
yeah, that was in the mid-50s, wasn't it?
1954 was the last of the rationing.
And you've still got the air raid drills and probably listening out for when the sirens go off. And then suddenly...
And we have the big map on the wall where
with
the
your
little
pins
flags
in.
we used to put in if we
So-
could find out where. And because my cousin Gerald's brother, he was also in the... It was the only two of them that were in the army. So they both came home and they got home safely.
So what was it like when suddenly VE Day? You know, suddenly, what can you remember where you were, what happened, how the news got to you?
I don't know how the news got there, but there was rumours that we were winning or things, and they were going to.
We were winning in Europe.
We were winning, and everybody was going to have a party, which we had in the school. All tables were put in the playground.
Well, surely they couldn't have done that prior to the announcement.
No. Once we found out there were parties going on all over the country.
That's what I'm trying to see if you remember. Was there suddenly everybody rushed into the classroom, or were you at home, or was there a broadcast on the wireless?
It was probably that.
So did people suddenly rush out in the streets and all start shouting, "Yippee! Way! We've won the war!"
Well, a lot of people were doing that, but I mean, we weren't supposed to make a noise.
Oh dear.
But I did make a big laurel wreath, like that shape, that we put over the doorway.
So I kind of imagine, did once it was declared that we'd had victory in Europe, did all the blackout stuff get ripped off the windows, and how soon was it that life started
I don't know if that could come down because it was still fighting in Japan, but I don't think the Japanese weren't flying over, so I imagine that.
Well, that'd be a bit slightly off course if they're
It was,
flying.
yeah.
If
So-
they're Hemel Hempstead.
And out of fuel.
So I imagine that we were allowed to, if
Did you suddenly feel like a big uplift?
well, it was different, and then it was going to be a party,
Yay!
and everybody up the street,
So was this a big
everybody-
street party?
Yeah,
was
it's a big street party in the playground, and that was after the wedding, because next door she was June as well, and her friend, they were doing sort of lavender's blue and whatever, and of course they nicked my headdress and something else, and all dressed up over there and did that. I've got the photograph of it somewhere, of the tables, my sister standing up there, you can just see her over the top, and everybody contributed something, and the grocer sliced the bread up for sandwiches and
Wow.
whatever.
Was it really kind of? Did it seem like a massive relief, or as a child you just kind of?
Well, you didn't
because
have
you were so
parties.
young when the war started at 3.5.
Yeah.
You didn't know any different.
You kind
no,
of
it's
went,
just
okay, this-
that's life,
Just got on with it.
That's all you had to do,
I suppose that's the
keep-
thing. If
Keep sawing the wood, keep cleaning the chickens out,
just keep on with life as normal.
weeding, yeah.
So
that is life.
the difference being is that when you were 3.5, you probably didn't think. What I'm trying to say is, if you were that much older before the war, you might have felt that life was a little bit richer,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you'd feel the
Yeah,
austerity of being in the war years.
Yeah, because you
But
could go
growing
and-
up,
You
in
could
the
eat
war
all
years,
these different things, and then all of a sudden it was on ration. Whereas when you're only little,
You were only ever remembering what it's
Well,
like to be
yeah.
on ration.
Yeah.
So it's like, I haven't got any memories of pre-ration.
no.
Well,
Well,
that's
except the muffin man used to come round with the tray on his head. And
The
and
Muffin Man?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
you know
ringing
the
his-
Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man from Drury Lane?
Yeah.
Which film?
Shrek.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You've got to get film
Yeah,
references
the
in.
muffin
yeah.
man. And the man used to be stop me and buy one with ice creams.
Well, that was
That was when I was in Hitchin.
so. That would be before the war had actually been declared.
Yes. But,
So partly,
so-
very
see,
very small memories of
and the other, apart from being a cherub on
on stage.
on stage in,
So
and then the police had a concert also in Bishop Stortford, and I went and we saw Harry Champion, and
Oh,
he
yes.
was singing boiled beef and carrots.
boiled beef and
No,
carrots. I don't know how it goes.
Oh, you just said boiled beef and carrots.
that's
I
it.
assumed you.
But in a slightly song-like
Yeah,
fashion.
which people probably
Try it.
wouldn't.
Boiled beef and carrots.
Boiled beef and carrots. Blah 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 blah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when we got to Hemel, Auntie Kathleen, who was married to my uncle, well, she was Irish, and and my cousin Gerald, and they took me to see Kevin O'Connor. Who the heck is Cousin O'Connor, you say?
I
to me?
assume
He was an Irish singer, and he was singing in Boxmoor. And we
Woohoo!
yes.
So this is all happening now after VE Day, yeah?
Yeah, we're all down there, so
Having
yeah.
a celebration. And the war in Europe is at an end.
Yes.
But as you said,
We
even
still-
that wonderful feeling that everything has now
We still
come
have,
to an end, you still know that obviously Japan are still fighting in the
I
Far
mean,
East.
the rationing didn't end up till 1954, and I got married in the beginning of 1955.
Right, so rationing stopped just before you got married.
Yeah.
But did that mean you had a better wedding reception? Did it feel suddenly kind of a bit more posher than...
We did have a sit-down meal.
Well, there you go then. And from that point onwards, life slowly became more and more...
Yes, we won't delve into going to secondary school.
Okay.
If I knew where they were buried, I'd jump up and down on them.
Well, that's one way of
Okay.
rounding off the podcast, I suppose. Do you have a list?
Yeah, like
Like
you've just-
Sheldon.
like Sheldon.
His-
yeah.
his was
Yes,
on a floppy
I
disk.
did end up being
A list of
a
mortal enemies.
prefect and a librarian and a you had
Telephonist?
to go. No, a
No?
conservative, not conservative. But anyway,
Conservative.
you had to go, yeah, something like that. I had my 3 badges on, and I actually got a detention.
You got a detention?
I got a detention.
How did you get a
This
detention?
bloody Irish woman,
Whoa!
little ginger cook.
Oh, the cook. What did you do to her, mother?
You're talking, June Prime. I only said sorry to somebody or other. Have a detention. And I think I'm the only prefect who ever got it. And my father
being
said,
at Hogwarts.
do.
I was thinking, Hogwarts.
My father said, do not put that on her
Lasting record.
record when she leaves. So it's not on my record. I don't know. But, no.
Still on that record now.
I had the certificates from Bury Road because I used to quite often came first in the class or second in the class. And
Yeah.
they were all hand painted and whatever. And I had to give back my badges, but I did have 3 badges.
Awesome. I got detention once.
Did you?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Only once.
I
only had
I'm surprised because you're a troublemaker.
I only recall having a detention once. And do you know, I was really dismayed by it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had no idea what to expect from a detention.
I had to sit and write them in lines.
Well, that was the thing, you see. So I had a piece. This is it. I had a piece of paper. I was with quite a few other people in the class. I remember being in the French block because we had a language block, and we were mostly we did French and German, and it was in one of the French teachers' classes after school. And I was writing these lines. I don't know, a bit like Bart Simpson. I shall not be cheeky or whatever.
Something stupid.
And we had to write that down and keep writing it down until the teacher then had decided, right, that's enough, you can go. And he took all the bits of paper and screwed them up and threw them in the bin.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I'd never experienced that before, and I was like, but I wanted to take it home with me. How dare you?
I have pride.
I've spent all this time writing these lines out, and you just screwed it up. And I was really angry at him. It was like inside my inner me.
On your mortal enemies list,
That's
right
it, on the
there.
mortal enemies list. Yeah,
That was the start of that list.
I could literally
just
hear his
felt
necks
that-
cracking in my in my
Nobody
mind.
was allowed to have an opinion on anything. There's all these old ladies, and she was a Welsh woman.
Oh dear, not a Welsh about Irish.
And her corsets were too tight, I swear, because her face where you go, she'd go like a turkey cock and have a big line of people to cane. And she came up to me one day, take off that headscarf at once, you look like a fisherwoman.
This is in secondary school.
Yeah. And I said, but the Queen and the Princesses wear them. She said, and stumped off. And I wish I'd have rung up or written to the Gazette and said, Miss has now declared that wearing a headscarf is like a fisherwoman. Is this treason?
This is treason.
I'm glad nobody asked me about my detention.
Oh, yeah, go on, I want to know about your detention. There's a story
I
there,
think
Zak.
that if the caning was still a thing,
Oh,
then I definitely wouldn't have got a detention.
Everybody wanted to cane everybody.
Well,
I didn't
I've
get-
had the slipper and I've had clicky bar as well.
No, I've
Clicky
not.
bar is something completely different.
But I wrote
It's
an
basically a technical drawing T-square with N taken off.
Okay, so I can probably say I've probably had more than one detention.
Yeah,
But
no,
in your
I-
life, you would never have been given a cane or anything.
No.
The majority of them were probably for late homework or something. I would have to then do said homework in the detention.
Yeah.
But the one that does stick out to me is I stuck pencils up my nose.
Oh
Oh,
dear.
yes. Did you say wibble? Wibble, wibble,
I wonder
wibble.
if I got that from Blackadder. That would have been funny.
As long as you weren't sitting there in the class with a pair of underpants on your head.
No. It was just the pencils. But it was in RE, and I really didn't like RE at the time.
Who does?
But I just found that it was,
I had to go in after school. And the thing was with it,
Had you removed the pencils at this point?
just about, I had to dislodge them from my nasal cavity.
Nasal cavity.
The teacher that obviously said, come back at the end of
Class.
the day, end of the day for a detention or whatever. And I did that. And I turned up. And then she was like, why are you here?
oh dear.
And I had to remind her
That you were meant to be having a detention.
for sticking pencils up my nose. It was like, oh yes, that was very naughty of you.
You gave yourself your own detention.
Yeah, apparently, well, she asked why I was there, so I was like, I better tell the truth. It's a good thing to do.
I just found that
Oh,
Maybe she didn't recognise you without the pencils.
I remember who got me in for that, and that was Joel Barrett. And yeah,
Oh, well, there you go.
Miss
Memories there.
Mansfield was the teacher.
Miss
teaching RE.
Mansfield, there you go.
oh, we had teachers that jumped up and down in temper, were nearly crying and whatever. And
What did you do to these poor
I
people?
didn't do anything to, but write an essay about things you think should be done with the school. This is a complete tirade.
Oh, right, I see.
That
yeah,
was
okay.
wrong.
Oh,
I wasn't. You weren't allowed to paint asters and whatever, using purple. You had to mix blue and something with it. I did a painting in different colours like this, of greens. That's not acceptable. I thought I've got trees and people walking in. That wasn't acceptable. And then somebody had to go and be Miss Jones's runabout. She'd send you off shopping or doing things instead of doing whatever.
Well, there we are.
Then I swear they only wanted coffee and biscuits. They'd send two of you, two prefects, to look after the special class. We got A,
Well,
B,
you
C,
still had those,
D,
right,
and
okay.
special.
You had special
And a
class.
lot of them, I found out, were refugees, and whatever. Some of them couldn't speak English or whatever. And they were just complete rabble. I mean, there was 40 to 50 of them in a class, and yet two 13 to 14-year-olds were supposed to look after them. I found the best way to control them was to talk stories, or perhaps get them to sing or do something, because they were like bloody wild animals, some of them. Yeah, they didn't want us to make them do anything.
Well, there we go.
Nothing like a good rant of past
No.
stories to round off the podcast.
Get it off your
And
chest,
the last
June.
day of school.
Okay, last day of school.
Last day
Is
of
this
school.
after VE or before?
No, that was after the
After the war.
no.
Last day of school. Here's a
I'd
story.
got a job in St Albans at a bookshop, but my father says you do as you're told till you're 21, and so he wouldn't let me do that. And you've got to go.
Hang on, so you actually got the job?
I'd got the job, but I
You
wasn't
weren't
allowed to have it.
Oh, come on.
You are going to go and see the postmaster, and you're going to be a telephonist. And I had no idea what a telephonist was.
I mean, I don't know what a telephonist is. Would you
And
like
I've
to...
never used a telephone in my life. You work at a telephonist
A
church
telephonist back in those days, Zach. You may have seen them on the movies, or
Yeah.
with a headset
Well, they
on.
have a headset on and a big bank,
big hall.
yeah,
and
a big
you
bank
were
of wires and plugs in front of you.
you were allowed to
And you-
stroke 6 foot. 6 foot.
So
you
you'd pull a
stretch.
plug out to change a line to a different line.
Okay.
Switches. So people will ring up, ask you, can you connect me to such and such? And
Oh, so like in movies where they say, I'd like to phone somewhere.
yes, can you put me through?
Can you put me through
And
to...
they say, hold
Yeah.
on for it, and switch.
Yeah.
But it was all manually
Yeah,
switched.
so I had. Anyway, came the last day, and my granddad had given me a pair of nylons, and I had my hair permed, and I went to school with some lipstick on and some high heels on, and a dress with a peplum on, and
With a what on?
it was like a
Like a
bit that tied round there and made
Okay.
a frill. Anyway, and she used to love to make people cry.
who did?
The headmistress.
Oh, the headmistress.
You had to stand at
kind.
the front.
Yes.
"Oh, I'm so sorry to leave it." I said, I'm very happy to be leaving, and I'm going to be a telephonist, and I will never darken these doors again. I did go there once, but that was it. And if I knew where she was buried, I was
You would
jumped.
go and have a little tango,
Yeah.
little dance, little jig.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
There we go.
I consider it was mostly a waste of time.
Has this been very therapeutic for
Yes.
you?
Especially at the end of this podcast, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, we shall have to think of something else to talk about.
So to round off, we've obviously gone through June, growing up through World War II and your memories of it. But before we go, we still have one thing to do.
And that is... I'm reaching for the Hat of Mystery.
Oh,
Yes.
All the way across the studio. The
The-
Dear Stalker,
the Dear Stalker.
of topics for our flashback
Oh, I
episode
think it's your turn.
that are exclusively available for our patrons
Yes.
and YouTube members.
June chose one last week, and did you just nominate me today?
Yes, I've just nominated
Okay, I'm
you.
gonna
Giving it a shake. Giving it a shake.
I'm diving
What
in
will
there.
the topic be for our
I've pulled
exclusive
one out.
episode?
Okay, here we go. I'm
Here we
unwrapping
go.
it.
I
I'm
wonder-
unraveling
What's
it.
it gonna
Okay.
be?
It is. I'll see if you can remember what this is.
Okay.
Episode 22.
22.
know.
Is that Doctor Who?
Superfans,
Yes.
yes. Doctor
Oh.
Who's Superfans.
Oh, brilliant.
So
cool.
everything to do with super fandom, and since that particular episode was about Doctor Who,
Well, we are actually quite close
Yes,
to
that's it.
Doctor Who, the 60th anniversary
yes.
this year. So that'll
will you be
probably
watching?
Oh,
pass-
yes, I shall be
pass off-
watching avidly.
Oh,
All right,
yes.
I think we should be
Yes.
bringing that one out of the hat
Your,
then.
your granddad wouldn't let us watch it.
So look forward to that.
Yes,
Too scary.
we're rebelling. We're
Yeah.
rebelling. We're watching.
Sounds like you've been a rebel all your life,
I
June.
definitely have.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of topics or activities you'd like to listen to in future episodes. That's a big boiled beans. What was that thing?
And
Boiled beef and carrots.
Boiled beef and carrots.
Boiled beef and
Goodbye
carrots.
from Zach.
And another boiled beef and carrots. Goodbye from Buzz.
And boiled beef and carrots from June.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You can find the Now We Know Show podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Keep up to date with everything ZWP on Facebook and Instagram, or visit the Zak Wylde Productions website at www.zakwyldeproductions.com. And remember to join us on Patreon or become a YouTube member for early access content and exclusive episodes.